What's up, everybody? We're recording this well after the rest of the episodes. Scott and I, Logan and Ilya, all recorded this morning around 9 o'clock on Wednesday. And we learned towards the end of that recording that Boone's doing a press conference at 1 o'clock Eastern. And we should have known then a bombshell would drop because it always does on the days we record. So now Logan and I are back here. It's almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And we learned that Frankie Montas is going to miss most of the season because he is having shoulder surgery. Fantastic. I love how why do they wait until the first day of spring training to drop that news? Like, why start off on such a bad note, you know?
Yeah, it's like it was kind of pending since the end of last year. It lingered, and then he came back for the playoffs, which probably wasn't the right thing. And then
Definitely not. Come on. Like, he had no value. No reason to rush him.
No, and also, like, if you're gonna scope his shoulder, which is just like, because they still don't know what's wrong. They're gonna scope his shoulder. Why not do it in November?
Yeah, I know you put that in our chat, and listen, I have that opinion as well. I had that opinion on was he DJ, but also who was it a couple years? Paxton. Remember Paxton
Probably.
had after the season. So on the one hand, I completely agree with you. I know that's how Red Sox fans feel with Trevor Story because they put off the surgery until late in the offseason, and now he's going to miss a bunch of time. But at the same time, surgery is always the last. It's always the last option, right? It's like you never want to just revert straight to surgery. So they were probably, banking on rehab and rest, and obviously that didn't work. The crazy thing is, I mean, obviously it's shitty news. Does this change your outlook on the season?
On this coming season? No.
Yeah. No. It doesn't. Like, didn't you already kind of write off Montas? Because I kind of already wrote him off in my mind. Like,
I wrote him off. He was a bonus piece in my head. Like, wow, this guy as a fifth starter could be good, but maybe not. He might be on the field and stink. We have no idea.
Exactly. So, like, while this is bad news, it's definitely bad news, and I think it just looks worse for Cashman in that trade last trade deadline. Like that's really where the criticism lies because of the injury history that Montas had leading up to that, and they clearly didn't do what they needed to do to find out this guy wasn't healthy. So all of that criticism is warranted. But as far as my expectations for the Yankees in 2023, this doesn't change it 1%.
Not at all. I mean, the only thing, like, a lot of people are upset about it, and a lot of people are upset at Cashman.
Of course.
The only thing that I would say as a rebuttal to that is if you're going to make trades, you're going to get burned sometimes. And I would rather them make the trades than sit with their, sitting on their hands and do nothing at the trade deadline and say, our rotation's good enough. We don't really like the options. Like, I'm okay with, you're not going to win every trade.
But if you trade for a guy and he just doesn't perform, that's one thing. When you trade for a guy that was injured at the time, clearly, and then continues to be injured, that's what I have a problem with, because your medical team needs to catch that. You need to not make that trade because you're not trading for a healthy pitcher. If the guy just that you acquire sucks, like, them's the breaks. I know we've joked about the Sonny Gray trade 1,000 times, but Scott and I have also said you make that trade 10 out of 10 times.
It's the right move.
Right. It was totally the right move, even though it didn't work out because Sonny Gray just couldn't perform. This clearly was the right move on paper, but the player was injured.
You know what? He just needs to stop trading with Billy Beane. That's the solution to
Billy Beane's in he's doing stuff with the Premier League. Is
he gone? Like,
yeah, I don't know.
Why does Oakland still have? Why does he have such an issue with Oakland?
Oakland and Seattle. He's just like that's
Seattle.
He likes to trade
more of a solution. Is better though.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing is it doesn't change the outlook on the season. And Boone said best case scenario would be for him to be back late in the year. Okay, fine. So we're looking at like a September out of the bullpen option, and then he's a free agent anyway. So at that point, like, fine, get him back, see what he can contribute in the bullpen.
Maybe he'll pitch in the game 1 at ALCS.
It'll be a 1-1 game in the 5th inning, and then they'll say, you know what? Let's get him tomorrow.
Let's rehab this guy.
Frankie, go out to the pen and warm up. Yes, I know it's game 1 of the ALCS, but we got him tomorrow. It's no big deal. So we're looking at Herman and Schmidt as the options to fill in the rotation, especially number 0, Domingo Herman. He didn't go with 00 though. I guess he didn't want to take Wait, Ottavino was 0-0, right? He wasn't
Ottavino
double
was
zero.
0-0. I don't know. Do they do 0-0 in baseball? I know in softball that's a big thing. My sister wears 0-0, and a lot of players wear 0-0 in softball. But I don't know if
I
double
think
zero is a thing in
I think
baseball.
0-0 is a cool number. I would want to
It
wear
is
double
cool.
zero. Yeah.
It is cool.
No, so I guess good news, bad news, Montas. Good news is that Boone said Nestor Cortez should be back around opening day. He's already been running, and that he'll probably be back for opening day. I guess it would just depend on his ramp up. So again, if it's not opening day, it should be sometime in mid-April to late April, which is totally fine.
It's not a big deal.
If he misses the first 3 starts of the year because he's building his arm strength up in Scranton, cool, whatever. Or extended spring training. Really, it would still be extended spring training. I'm fine with that. You're looking at Herman and Schmidt as the 4 and 5 options out of the rotation until Nestor comes back.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're fine options. Herman is good enough to be a 5th starter. I mean, I don't think we have any issues there. And Clark Schmidt, I would like for them to give Clark Schmidt a real chance at being something. They also mentioned they asked him about Michael King in a starter's role, which he said probably not, but really only because of the injury thing, not necessarily because they don't think he could do it. And they talked about with Michael King, him being ready, but probably wanting to use him in the 2017 Chad Green role, or like the role they used him in the beginning of the year. Multi-innings, it's a little bit easier on the arm. It's not as much getting up and sitting down.
I mean, that's a massive weapon if he can be that and be consistent at that.
He was so good at the beginning of the year when he was doing 3 innings at a time.
Yeah. I mean, 3 innings is maybe pushing it. I mean, 2 innings seems to be the sweet spot, especially if you're getting the length out of Cole and Rodon, like you should be getting the length out of, and then Severino and Cortez can also give you 6 innings consistently as well. 2 innings is kind of the sweet spot. Yeah, and him being ready to go for spring training is also a positive. A couple of other takeaways from the press conference that he mentioned is that he expects Gleyber Torres to be at second base, and DJ will spell him at second, but also third and first base as well, and that DJ is in a good spot with be fully ready to go for opening day. And then we've got some you put in some screenshots of tweets talking about Gleyber. So Brian Hoke tweeted, Gleyber Torres said, the last time I checked social media in November, there were too many rumors, too many things. So I'm just enjoying my little baby, preparing myself, coming here and doing my thing. And then Marley Rivera said, when asked if he was approached, he meaning Gleyber, if the Yankees have approached him with any talks of a contract extension, Gleyber said, I wish. Which is really sad coming from Gleyber. If it was coming from anyone else, you could kind of sense it's like, oh, maybe that's some sarcasm, or maybe that's just like being like, fun with the media. But you can kind of know that like Glaber's just sad about it.
Yeah, it's not, I love Gleyber. I mean, I was like pining for him the way like people pine for Volpe now, but to each their own, I guess.
Yeah, and Boone talked about the shortstop competition that it's really, he was asked about the 4 guys. And he mentioned, so the 4 guys are obviously Peraza, IKF, Volpe, and Oswaldo Cabrera. Oswaldo has not been mentioned because everyone thinks it's Oswaldo and Hicks competing for the left field job. But he did talk about the 4 guys. Are you reading into the fact that he said Peraza first? Like he talked about Peraza first?
I did read into the fact that he said Peraza first. He did also mention that everybody is going to be playing other positions than shortstop this spring. So to me, that's also leaving the door open for they're going to be getting IKF reps at third base, and I mean maybe elsewhere.
Where else would Volpe be playing? Second?
So this was the other thing. So one of the guys, name is escaping me, one of the beat reporters for Scranton talked about the fact that Volpe's only played 5 games ever not at shortstop in the minor leagues. 2 at third base, or 3 at third base, and 2 at third base. 2 at second base and 3 at third base, I think, or vice versa. But
it's not a lot of time.
Yeah, it's not a lot of time. But he definitely, that would be it. But he doesn't. I don't know why they would do that, honestly.
Yeah, I think with Volpe, just play Volpe at shortstop and let him get comfortable and see what kind of shortstop he is. Peraza, I completely get, because I feel like Peraza has a good chance to make the roster just in a position that he could play other infield spots. IKF, obviously, you need to find value for him, and then Cabrera is going to be playing left field.
Yeah, well, Cabrera, obviously, I think they are going to get him reps at shortstop. I think they do like him as a guy that can play everywhere. But for Peraza also, he hasn't played a lot of other positions before getting to the major leagues either. They played him a couple times at second base in the minors last year, but other than that, he's pretty much a only shortstop too. But obviously, things at the major league level are going to have to change for them to both coexist if they do.
Yeah, I mean, you could be right in reading into the fact that he mentioned Peraza first. So then he said IKF second. So are you saying it's like Peraza IKF and then Volpe
I think that's
really
going to be what
shot?
they do. I think that's what they're going to do going into opening day. And then he also mentioned, he specifically said maybe it's something that plays out through the season, not just this spring. So to me, I read that as it's going to be Peraza or IKF, probably Peraza, and they're going to start Volpe in the minors. And he did. He was asked about that though. Like, what would Volpe have to do? The quote was, "What would you need to see out of Volpe to have him make the team out of camp?" And Boone said, "I don't know," and then said some other stuff, and then said, "But we wouldn't be adverse to doing that. Take what you will want."
I think what would need to happen is Volpe would obviously need to have a really strong spring, and Peraza or IKF would need to not only have bad springs, but one of them would need to be injured.
Yeah, it would need to be like, I think he's starting at AAA. Remember, he played a month at AAA. The only time that Volpe got a AAA was when Peraza came up to the big leagues.
Right.
So it's still, he needs some. They're going to say he needs some seasoning, at least defensively.
Yep.
And
if Peraza, IKF, and
so would save his time.
If Peraza, IKF, and Oswaldo Cabrera are all healthy at the end of entering opening day, Volpe's not making the roster.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be. Yeah, it would. I can't see it.
Yeah. Any other takeaways that you wanted to talk about from the press conference?
Not really. I mean, he talked about the Astros and being a championship team, and I love these quotes because his quotes are always funny. Like he said that he feels that it's a reasonable goal that they've always had, which I just got a kick out of when he said that. He also said that
beating the Astros is a reasonable goal.
Well, yeah, and being a championship level team,
okay,
it's a reasonable goal. I mean, I would hope so. Yeah, he talked about the pitching staff on the Astros being top notch last year because he was asked about 50 strikeouts in 4 games, I think the number was. And that's a real number, not like an exaggeration. Because I heard that and I was like, wow. And he said it was one of the best pitching staffs they've ever faced top to bottom, which is, there's some merit to that. And then he talked about the key cogs in the lineup kind of going cold. Didn't name any names, but you could think of, Judge, Stan.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and the Astros, even though they lost Verlander, they're still going to be a really tough team to get through.
Yeah. I mean, Christian Javier, the kid that they just extended for like $50 million or something, was the kid that pitched a no-hitter and then shut us down at that playoff game that we were at.
I blacked that out of my memory. All right, so that's going to be it for this emergency segment. We obviously wanted to react to the news. I guess maybe we'll just try and plan around Boone's press conferences better going forward. We did record like an entire hour-long episode, so stay tuned for that, and we'll be back at you next week. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripe Show. It's Pitchers and Catchers Week. The Super Bowl's behind us. Scott, how was your time at the Drake concert? Were you the most out-of-place person there?
No, absolutely not. Are you kidding me? I had a fresh new outfit. Just mingling with the stars. Just mingling with the stars. I may or may not have gotten it Marshalls or TJ Maxx, but it's fine. Look, I did not go to the Super Bowl, but we were out there for Super Bowl week, which was just a fantastic time. I'm not going to lie. It was a good time. And the Friday night Drake party, which was invite only, is a different world. It was a different world. I'm in there and I'm like looking to my right, Serena Williams. Then there's CeCe Sabathia walking in with his wife, Amber. Then there's this guy that's like 7'5" that nobody knew who he was. There's some guy in the league for a bit that came over, but towering over everybody. Michael Strahan, A-Rod was there. Machine Gun Kelly.
Did you see Jeter? Because
Michael Fox.
You see
or
Jeter?
Megan Fox. Huh?
You see Jeter? Because Jeter made a surprise appearance on Fox on Sunday to announce he's joining the Fox team.
He did make an announcement. He was not at the party that I knew of. I feel like I would have heard that, but no, he was not there. But yeah,
can I say something about that?
So it was fun. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
I don't like that Jeter's going to be on Fox, and because I don't think he's going to be good as a TV analyst. I don't think he's going to be critical. I think he's going to play it down the middle. I mean, he couldn't even freaking pick who he thought was going to win the Super Bowl. They asked him like, "Oh, who you got today?" And he's like giving a politically correct answer. It's like, No one cares if you pick the Chiefs. No one cares if you pick the Eagles. Just pick a team and just move on. Like, I don't know. I think I like that we've got Jeter back in our lives, but I don't think he's going to be good on TV, and that's going to bother me.
So is he going to be in the booth with A-Rod?
No.
Or is he in the studio?
But A-Rod's not even in the booth anymore. A-Rod's
right. They switched it up.
A desk guy.
So maybe maybe Jeter is going to be in the booth.
I would be shocked if Jeter's in the booth.
I mean, this is the Tom Brady, Greg Olson move that Fox is just doing in baseball.
Yeah, I think Greg Olson's very good though.
He is.
Thing.
I mean,
it's like,
look,
Greg Olson's is better than Tom Brady's going to be.
Here's the deal. We'll see. But the both of those guys just are so used to doing things at a high level that it would not surprise me if Jeter gets very good at it. Yeah, it would not even remotely surprise me even in the least bit.
Do you
A-Rod,
see him
different
being
story.
critical?
I don't know if A-Rod has it in him. Jeter does.
Do you see Jeter being critical?
Yeah, that's probably the toughest thing, is for him to be honest as you can. But he's certainly been a hell of a lot more honest recently than he has been, throughout the time that we've had him in our lives. So, maybe there's a new leaf now, and he understands that, being part of the media, that's a bridge that you have to cross, and he'll do it in his way. But,
is Jeter a little bit of a masochist? He just he keeps going back to A-Rod. He keeps surrounding himself with the poison that is A-Rod. Like, dude, you moved on. You retired. You purposely retired in a season that A-Rod was suspended for the entire year, which I thought was a fantastic move. You moved on, and you were the CEO of the Florida Marlins, A-Rod's hometown Marlins. Okay, so you shoved it to him that way, and then yeah, fine, that didn't work out, but you didn't have to go back and sit next to A-Rod after you played next to him for 15 years and fucking hated it.
Let me tell you something. I think it's completely the opposite. I think he's like, that guy's terrible at this job. I'm going to walk in there and show him how to do this and be so much better on day one that it's going to be embarrassing for him.
You know what would be interesting?
So I think he's going to show him up on national television. That's what's going to happen.
They've got the desk, right? Everyone's sitting. The guy, Kevin Burkhardt, is the guy who's
very good. He's the other guy with Olsen on the broadcast.
Burkhardt is like he's
from the Mets. I think he's a Fordham guy. Could be wrong with that, but I think he is.
He's like the MC of the desk, right? That he pitches to he throws it to each guy so they can give their 2 cents.
Yeah, point guard.
It'd be interesting to see where they position A-Rod and Jeter. Who's sitting where? Because if we envision it like a baseball diamond, right? And first base, second base, shortstop, third base.
Is that how it goes?
Who gets the shortstop seat? Is it going to be Jeter or is it going to be A-Rod?
Yeah, I think you're overthinking this, but it's going to be Jeter. A-Rod's a third baseman and tried to be a first baseman. That didn't work.
Does A-Rod, when A-Rod doesn't get into the Hall of Fame, does he not go in as a shortstop or not go in as a third baseman?
He does not go in as a Yankee shortstop. That's for sure.
All right, we've got some a lot of stuff to talk about. Spring training pitchers and catchers. We're going to do some award predictions. We're mixing it up for spring training, but a couple things to get through first. We already talked about the Jeter thing. We got some jersey number reveals last night or the other. It was yesterday. So Tuesday, we're recording this Wednesday morning. Something I know bothered you, Scott. Anthony Volpe got number 77. I don't understand why anyone would willingly accept Jackson Clint Frazier's old number, but number 77, your future shortstop of the New York Yankees.
So yeah, you kind of mentioned it, and I was thinking the same thing. It's got to be just the spring training number. I mean, he's a non-roster invitee to spring training. Nothing's, you got to earn everything. Nothing's given. Kind of that mentality, which I appreciate. That's fine. And if you're just giving a number away, and Clint Frazier's number happens to be there, it shows how meaningless it is. So there you go. Give a number. There was a trend that Judge started with the double numbers in the outfield that we thought was going to take off. We thought we were going to have 77 in left field, 99 in right field. We thought this was going to be a thing. Not a thing. It's Judge is still the only guy out there, and now our future shortstop. But again, I don't think it's not a permanent thing. Like if he makes the roster and starts the season, yeah, he's going to get probably 14.
Tyler Wade's old number? That was Tyler Wade's old number, right?
Yeah, and Neil Walker, I think.
Neil Walker and Tyler Wade, right?
And there are some people that I choose not to mention, but yeah.
Was Wade number 12? I can't remember if he was 12 or
He was both.
12. He was 12 actually. Yeah.
I think he was both because
Okay,
Odori was 12 at one point that he was here. Starlin Castro was 14 probably when he first came up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've gotten here the low number.
Starlin Castro, available. I have a little place in my my Yankee fandom heart for because of the walk up song, which we still use in for mailbags when we do those, and then also he was my first question I ever asked as media at a thing.
So the low number is still available: 11, 13, 14, 18, 19. 11 be interesting when no one wears number 11 for like 20 years. And then they get guilted into retiring it like they did for Paul O'Neill's number 21. 13. Oh, Gallo wore 13, right? Gallo wore 13 after A-Rod. 19 was... Wait, why am I drawing... Is 18 or 19 Tanaka was... Which one was Tanaka? 18 or 19? I think it was 19. Right?
19.
It was 19. Yeah. So, anyway, some other news items. Dodgers signed your boy David Peralta to a 1-year deal.
Great sign. 6.5 million for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a value sign. It is.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think so. We're going to talk about a little later some other free agent options still out there that the Yankees could sort of dumpster dive on at the last minute. $6.5 million though for Peralta, even if he could help the outfield situation. I don't know that they were going to the conversation is, are they going to go over the luxury tax threshold? We think yes, but are they going to do it for someone that might not help you out a bunch before the season even starts? And then Arizona signed Andrew Chafin to a 1-year deal at $5.5 million. And I was kind of I don't know if I was surprised by this, but I thought that was a pretty good value for Chafin, who's been a good relief pitcher. And it was actually less than the player option that he declined with Detroit. That's another piece that I thought is a value.
Yeah, Ilya, I want you to chime in here because this is a guy that we had looked at in our offseason plans and yeah, seemingly very much available, not getting the even up to his player option. I don't know. It's strange. Why do you think that he went and he goes to no man's land in Arizona? So there's not even a contending team that thought a lefty who had pretty good numbers in Detroit would help their club at that cost. I'm very surprised that he went where he went at the cost that he did.
Yeah, it seems a little strange. I mean, Arizona's putting something together. I'm not saying they're going to contend, but they're trying. I think he just played the market wrong. I think he waited it out too long, and teams got kind of set.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's strange to me. It works out to be $6.25 million with the buyout on the second year.
Right.
Chafin also pitched most of his career with Arizona, so there's some comfort there.
That's true.
I don't know if he thinks maybe they'll, off a good season, if they'll rework that deal and tack on more years at the end. There could be some communication behind the scenes, but it does seem strange that another contending team.
He's a lefty, right? He's So that's the other thing is that I know Caneley's going to come in and has extremely, he might as well be a reliever that can get out lefties because of the way his changeup runs against lefties. He's a tough out to them. So I have a feeling we're going to see that quite often. But the Yankees bullpen is that's if you're calling out one area. I don't want to call it weakness. One area that's not as deep, I guess, is left-handed relievers. So seemingly he would have been a good fit for the club too. But the Yankees didn't want to pay that money, but it's not a lot of money.
The Yankees have been vocal too about wanting more left-handed arms in the bullpen. Yeah, it's a little strange.
They you can even also argue it's not just left-handed relievers that they're lacking. I think the bullpen might be a little bit thin to start the season with King not there. And then Holmes hopefully being back to full strength in what we saw in the first.
And Chafin has closing experience too, so he's a guy. Yeah, it's a little bit of a head scratcher to me because he does seem like a really good fit for the roster.
But yeah,
obviously there's something else that was going on behind the scenes, and maybe it's he wanted to be in Arizona, maybe he wanted to be on the West Coast. Who knows?
Sure. But yeah, it comes back to the money and what are they going to choose to go over the luxury tax threshold for? It's like, you've got to, you want to, if they do it, which I think they're going to do it, you want to do it for a piece that you're very, very confident is going to help your club, not just another guy, another depth piece. That I'm not saying Chafin is. I think Chafin's better than that, but still. PitchCom updates. So the pitchers are going to be wearing a wristband this year, and they can call pitches and signal to the catcher rather than what it was last year where the catcher was only signaling and then the pitcher would hear the sound in their ear and they would have to shake yes or no. So now it's going to be both way. I think the PitchCom was an underrated thing last year that helped speed up the games. And I know that was talked about early in the season, but I think we saw that pretty much the whole year, that it made things more efficient.
Yeah, I mean, it's very clear that that's the name of the game here, is they're trying to create efficiency, speed up the game with a lot of these rule changes. And so the fact that the pitchers are getting some kind of a wristband similar to the catchers, why not? If you're going to do it, make it convenient for everybody, make it, how many times did we see, like, I can't hear, almost like a quarterback running, looking at the sidelines, like, I can't hear the play call. And that happened multiple times. I remember Severino a few times just, taking the hat off, readjusting, getting the mic. So if they have another way of communication that's a little bit easier, makes sense. Use it to its fullest ability if you're going to use it.
Yeah. The pitcher, we're just firing through news items. So the pitcher position player pitching thing, was this not a rule last year, or this is a new rule? So
yeah,
if you have a position player pitching, you must be winning by 10 or more runs or losing by 8 or more runs, or it's extra innings. You can't. So it has to be a blowout. And I think this was in response to the expanded rosters with the number of pitchers and position players you're carrying on your roster. But this is just like one of those things that it's not going to come up much. So far,
I think it's more so that a lot of people just don't want to see injuries, and then they don't want to see. It's not good for the game. Pitchers should pitch, not position players. So
it's not good for the game, because a lot of people disagree. They say it is good for the game because it no matter what the situation is, it always goes around Twitter. That's like a thing. It's like, oh, look at this backup outfielder pitching.
That's fine.
70-mile-an-hour meatballs. Oh,
and when it's okay,
hit one to the upper
but
deck.
when it's okay is in blowouts and in extra innings when needed. So the rules are just emphasizing, and Ilya's putting in here that it was a rule, just wasn't enforced strictly, which plenty of rules are. We could talk quickly about the balk after this too. Another rule that they're going to be looking at, but I just think that they're trying to zero it back down to like, okay, when are they needed? It's when they're needed, not as a convenience piece to save a guy that's in the bullpen. That's kind of the whole premise behind it.
And then a rule I'm very happy about.
So hold on, okay, go ahead. I want to talk about the balk thing too.
Okay, go ahead with the balk.
Okay, so
what
it's just another rule that they are going to be enforcing more strictly is what they're saying essentially. And this bothered me, actually. This one bothered me. So I'm glad they're making an adjustment here. At the end of the day, why is a balk called? A balk is called because the pitcher is deceiving either the base runner or the batter. There's some type of deception in their delivery that throws them off. And there are so many times, like we're seeing this, there was an article written about this, that the balk is now going to be identified, more frequently and looked at and regulated more strictly. And it's because you're also seeing, like, you have a couple guys doing like a toe tap. You have these like, these different hip motions that look like our guy Dickie Blyer got called 3 times in one game last year. You see that, with a lot of these lefty relievers, lefty specialists that have a little bit of a sidearm delivery too. They have some deception in their delivery. So I'm glad that they're doing this, because there were many times last year where I'm like, that's a balk, and they just don't call it, because you can't tell if the guy's going home. If you need to be true to home plate, you need to stop and have a pause at the top of your windup, and then you need to go to home. And there are plenty of guys doing like toe taps and shit like that. They called out Clevenger, who might not even be playing, Blyer, and a couple other guys. I think Will Smith was also called out. Just a few guys that it will affect more. But just another thing. It's like they're going around and just like tightening up all the windows, putting some WD-40 in the hinges so the doors don't squeak. It's like they're going through and just cleaning out some scar tissue, little debris here and there of the game. So there's a lot of things that are either going to be reinforced or more enforced or changed this year.
Isn't it also part of in response to the pitch clock? Because
it's part of it, yeah. Because because when you come set, I think it is, right?
That's when the pitch clock stops. Yeah. I was going to talk about the pitch clock, so we'll just talk about it now. So I was reading an article and sort of just went through the details of the pitch clock because it is obviously new this year. So the pitch timer is 15 seconds with the bases empty, 20 seconds with runners on base, 30 seconds. There's also a 30-second timer between batters that batters are going to be held to. And this is all going to be regulated by the field timing coordinator, FTC, which apparently existed prior to this. It's just he didn't really have much to do. So now we're going to hear about the FTC more. And the timer starts the moment the pitcher receives the ball and stops the moment he goes into his motion. So as soon as you start,
say that one more time.
The timer starts when the pitcher receives the ball back from the catcher.
Yep.
And then it stops. The timer stops when he goes into his motion. So part of this balk rule is you can't deceive the runner by starting your motion. You've got to be more strict on that.
Because is it when you start your motion or you come set? It's when you're taking a sign and then you pull. As soon as you start pulling up, that's when it starts, or when
that's when it stops.
Set?
That's when it stops.
When it stops, right?
It's when you start. So you can be set. The pitch clock is still going.
You're not set then. No, you're not set. You're taking a sign and then you
you can be set
and then you wrote.
No, you can be set. Yes, you can. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
You're okay. There's a runner on first base, right? Yeah. And you come and then you get the sign. Okay, you're gonna throw a curveball. Okay.
Yeah.
Then you come set.
Yeah. Now you're set. Yeah. It's already the windup already started at that point.
No.
You're saying when there's a runner on. Okay, you're right. With a runner on. Sorry, I'm thinking.
Yeah, with a runner on. Yeah, with a runner on, you're coming set. You're still trying to keep the runner held at first base. Yeah. Then once you move, then the pitch clock stops.
Once you start your motion towards home plate, yes.
So the reason they have to be more strict on the box is so you don't deceive the runner just to stop the pitch clock.
Right.
Good.
Well, and just generally there's some sloppiness within that and way too much leniency in that rule anyway. So I'm glad they're tightening it up.
Oh, I saw someone put a Kevin Cash quote in here. He said, if we're playing the Yankees, they turn into 4-hour ball games. So Kevin Cash is like pretty happy about this pitch clock. Is that the Yankees' fault though? Like, I feel like the Rays are just as much at fault for that, for making 75 pitching changes.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of rules that were instituted because of them, the shift. Yeah.
And then the last rule that is going to be permanent is the ghost runner in extra innings. I'm happy about this. I know everyone else hates it, but I like it.
Ugh, what a dumb decision. But what happens in the playoffs?
It goes away.
What? It's so stupid. Okay.
Plenty of sports do that.
So, well, the NFL just got rid of the whole overtime difference between. It's dumb.
NFL plays once a week.
Hey, let's play. It has nothing to do with that. Let's play.
It does. Has everything to do with
different rules.
It has if baseball played once a week, this would not be a rule. Baseball plays almost every day. The games go on far too long. Then you're playing a 17-inning game until 3:30 in the morning. It's freaking stupid. Just end the game. It's July against the Royals. It doesn't matter.
So then bring in ties. Why not?
Because I think the ties are worse. No, the ties are worse.
For half a second.
The tie is worse. This is obviously better than a tie. You have a resolution.
I know. They're both bad. I'm not saying the tie is good. I hate that would drive me insane. And it's also not a ghost runner. There's an actual guy out there.
So what did we end up calling it?
I don't know.
Bullshit
co-ed
runner?
softball? Co-ed softball?
Co-ed softball runner.
Yeah, co-ed softball runner. Go ahead.
Yeah, again, people just get big mad. There's 162 of these things. The Manfred man is what a lot of people call it.
But let's just change the rules when it counts.
Rob Manfred sucks.
So
I don't like Rob Manfred. He just was a complete dingleberry during the entire COVID stuff and just both sides. Like, I just could not stand that entire negotiation process. And
he looks
how
like
long it took them to get back on the field. But this is something that he did that I'm actually fine with. Is the Manfred man.
All right, so we got other things too. The bases, which actually I think is going to be really interesting. You're adding 3 inches to the bases. So because of that, the the distance between first and second and third is 6 inches shorter. That's a big deal. That's a hand.
Mm-hmm.
That's
some
that's
other
a big
things
deal.
too.
Couple of, well, it depends on who you are, but yeah, that's unbelievable. This guy,
Yeah. So, but
that's a big deal. I think with the pitch clock, pitchers or batters, I think are going to be able to get better jumps, and now they have a shorter distance. We're going to see stolen bases up significantly this year.
Significantly,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah,
5%, 10%.
I think like 10% or more.
Mm.
Think about that. You know when to go.
No, 6 inches. No, that obviously, because there's so many bang plays,
Yeah.
and then you get the replay zoom in, and you're like, oh, his finger hadn't quite touched the bag yet, and then he was tagged on the back. Now he could be on the bag. So yeah,
not to mention you're getting more of a traditional defensive setup. So you're not going to have guys, hovering over the bag as much on the defensive side as well.
3 inches bigger in all directions.
It's the square is 3 inches larger on all sides.
But what I'm saying is, are they going to compensate for that by moving the position of the bag so the distance between the bags is still the same?
No.
Why wouldn't they do that?
I don't know. You'd have to move the second base bat. It wouldn't work.
Yeah, the line. You're right, because the ones on the lines are easy
geometry.
to do. The ones on the lines actually, you could still do because you line up the edge with the foul line.
You could move them all back. Home plate stays where it is, right? That's not changing. We ain't adding 3 inches on home plate, even though some umpires do anyway. So the base paths are staying the same. So I think it's, if you measure the center of the base is not moving
on any.
My understanding, correct?
Okay, yeah, we'll see. We can monitor how many stolen bases there are too. Maybe Brett Gardner could finally steal some bases, sign him out of retirement.
Well, you'd have to run. You'd have to start running first.
No, I know. That's true. Something you could do.
Did we add him into the list of free agents that we're gonna see are still available?
Is he officially retired? Did he ever file his paperwork?
I don't think so. I don't.
Interesting.
We would have heard something. He would have been a Yankee for a day, or maybe he'll do it in the season.
He already retired. He already retired a Yankee. He doesn't need to sign a 1-day contract.
Well, maybe they'll do a day for him.
Got it.
A retirement day for Brett Gardner, just an appreciation.
All right, we got a bunch of other stuff to talk about, but before we do that, I want to tell you guys about my favorite green drink, Athletic Greens. AG1 is a daily supplement that's meant to be drank every single day. You drink it in the morning, first thing, soak up all those nutrients. It's packed with 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source ingredients, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. It supports mental clarity and alertness, promotes gut health with pre- and probiotics. It can give you better sleep quality and recovery, and it boosts your energy. Did you take it to Super Bowl week, Scott? Did you fire up the Athletic Greens in the morning to help?
Yep.
Help
you know what? They have packets, single serve packets, so I was able to pack those with no issue and take them with me. So yeah, the regiment did not stop. That's the beautiful thing about it as well. There's different ways that you can consume it. Like I've mentioned, I set up the bottles for the week, put them in the refrigerator, shake those bad boys up, hit the road. Very easy for me. And then when you're traveling, they have the single serve packets, which you could take with you and just set them up that way. So yeah, I was able to take it with me.
Nice. Each serving of AG1 contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial flavoring. It's affordable, especially if you compare it to what you're buying individually for supplements and vitamins. And if you're like me and Scott, it's easy and convenient, and that's the most important thing. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 5-star reviews trusted by athletes and health experts around the world. You can give it a try going to athleticgreens.com/pinstripes. And if you buy AG1, you get a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs. Those travel packs are the ones that Scott just talked about. Again, go to athleticgreens.com/pinstripes. Thank you so much to Athletic Greens for continuing to sponsor. They're going to be with us all season. All right. Nasty Nestor injury. He's not going to be in the double.
Real quick, before we get to Nasty Nestor, I got a shout out to Roast Master Rick, your father, for the coffee that I'm drinking this morning, and I'm still asking for this. I got to talk to the tech guy who can run the website. I don't know who that guy is, but the monthly subscription so that I could just have it come to my house and stop thinking about it. Because as we know, I need things to be relatively convenient and thoughtless so that I can actually do it. Otherwise it won't happen. And it took me, I think I took like a 1.5 year gap because I forgot to reorder coffee, but I just did, and it's phenomenal. So
you've got the pistachio, right? That you went with the
pistachio. I got the pistachio. That's going to be a weekend coffee for me. And then I got the Colombian roast, and then I went with the suggestion from the employee tips, this guy named Andrew, for after dinner, the after dinner blend as well. So I got 3 of them. Just ordered my vacuum containers as well, so now they'll all stay nice and fresh. I'm very excited about this.
So yeah, I'm the tech guy behind the website, and you know my tech skills. So you understand why I have not set up the monthly subscription.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
It's not that hard. You should do it though.
Do you want to do it? I'll give you access.
Tell the people the website so they can get their coffee too.
Yeah, go to richardallencoffee.com. So I'm sure everyone listening is aware of this. My dad has been a coffee roaster for freaking 40 years at this point in Rhode Island. It's
very
delicious.
good at it.
It's delicious coffee. It's the best coffee you're going to find. It's roasted every single week. So the coffee that Scott's drinking right now was roasted last week. If you're drinking Starbucks, like I just saw Logan drinking, that shit was roasted like 3.5 months ago.
Unbelievable. Anyway. It's Logan. That's not acceptable. We got to get you a bag of this. It legitimately, and like no bullshit, the best coffee I've ever had in my life. No bullshit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll tell my dad.
Thanks.
Tell him
to stop being so angry.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not gonna temper his anger about the Yankees at all. So Nestor Cortes, grade 2 hamstring strain. He's not going to be pitching in the WBC. Unfortunately for him, because I think that was probably going to be pretty cool, and this is going to be his only opportunity, I would guess, to pitch in the WBC. But at this point, it's like you're not going to risk injuries, obviously. And this is a little bit concerning because it's the third lower body soft tissue injury in the last 7 months for him. The first 2 were groin strains, and that's what he ended the postseason with, a groin strain. If you remember him coming out of that game, was that game 4 against Houston? He came out of that game with that, or was it the Houston, or was it? Did he injure it in game 5 against Cleveland? I can't even remember when he injured it. But this is another starter, so now 2/5 of the planned Yankees rotation is likely not going to start the season.
Yeah, well, this is one of those things that maybe they're just being a little bit more careful with him. Game 4 ALCS from Ilya. He also says trust your instincts, which sometimes I don't know. But the WBC is coming up fast. So even if there's like any kind of tenderness in an injury, like we need to play it safe. And hopefully that's what it is at this point, because this thing pool play starts on March 7th, coming up fast.
Yeah, that's also the criticism of the WBC is the timing of it. I don't know when else you could do it, but these guys are not ramped up, and then they're playing games that obviously they're not the most competitive games, but they're certainly not as lax as spring training games. And you're doing that.
Dude, they're competitive. Of
your season.
They're competitive.
I know they're competitive.
You just have a lot more depth, I think, in that way. So it's not like, not every single person needs to play the entire game. There's a lot. It's like an all-star lineup essentially. So
I'm not worried about the position players. The position players can go up there and they can take 2, 3, or 4 at bats or whatever. They can field their position. It's the pitchers though that are building up arm strength. And then, I know they're not going to be pitching 7 innings, 110 pitches, but they're still throwing at. You can't turn off competitiveness on the mound, right? It's like you're not going to go up there and just work on your fastball, because then you're going to get drilled. You're not going to do that in the WBC.
Well, also, to be fair, like a lot of the guys I think that are competing in this, have started earlier and, either playing winter ball or just, adjusted their training regimen so that they can be more ready for this. It's not like they're just like, oh shit, pitchers and catchers started today and we got the WBC in a month. Like they're preparing for that, especially pitchers. They have to, and they're not going to get, they're not going to be throwing complete games or anything. So this is it's a stretch that they have to prepare for a little differently. But yeah, obviously if there's some kind of a lingering injury or something that doesn't feel completely right, like you should play it safe and err on the side of caution. Do you think that there's another, like the middle of the season, do you think that would be a possibility around?
It's 3 weeks, right? You need 3 weeks.
It's March 7th and then the championship is on the 21st. Yeah.
So you need 3 weeks. So you would basically be skipping the All-Star game. No, it's
7 to 14, 14 to 21.
Oh, so it's only 2 weeks. you'd need 2 weeks. You'd probably skip the All-Star game, right? And then so that's 1 week that you're already basically off. So you'd need a 2-week break. You'd have to reduce the season by, call it 10 games. I would be down with that because I think it would be better competition and better publicity for the WBC if you do it in the middle of July when there's nothing happening in the rest of the sports world. I actually think that would be good for baseball.
Yeah, it's interesting if they were, how would that affect who plays, and who doesn't play?
Does Judge play, right? Like, do you get Judge and Cole on the U.S. team because they're in the middle of their season anyway? And you maybe even want your pitchers to pitch in it because they're going to need the work. And you want your players to hit in it because you don't want them to sit for 2 straight weeks and not see live pitching.
Yeah, it also, there's other considerations besides Major League Baseball. I mean, it's the World Baseball Classic, so there are other leagues that are happening too. So disruption on other, I understand, but
they're going to work around MLB.
Sure, but there are disruptions from other leagues as well. So I don't know. It's interesting. I'm excited for it though. It's gonna be fun.
Would you prefer it in July?
I don't know. I'm not fully sold. I think I kind of like it. I kind of like it as a ramp up before because it's spring training. At some point gets old and you're ready for the season to start, and you throw something like this in there with a month into spring training essentially that has a high level of competition and excitement. I think it's fun. It kind of brings the season a little sooner.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Speaking of spring training, so the non-roster invitees were announced. There's a bunch of them, but some notable names: Anthony Volpe, Jason Dominguez, Austin Wells, Anthony Siegler, all guys making their spring training Yankees non-roster invitee debuts. So it'll be interesting to see those guys. And then because of that, we're going to do some spring training award predictions. So who we think are going to win these. And then at the end of spring training, we can revisit to see what we got right. The first one is my favorite one. And every year we hear about this. It's the Best Shape of Their Life award. And I think IKF is going to get some talk about the best shape of his life. He was disappointed with the way that his season ended. He didn't like his poor performances in the field. He understands the shortstop job is not him. He dedicated himself to be the best defender he could possibly be in the offseason. He's in the best shape of his life, Scott.
Right. I don't think the his physique or his fitness is ever at issue. I don't think that anybody looked at that guy and like he's not in the best shape of his life. I think
that doesn't matter. That doesn't necessarily matter. It doesn't have to be a fat guy.
Doesn't have to be a fat guy. I think IKF, we will not hear that from him. Who we will hear it from, the correct answer here is Aaron Hicks. We will hear Aaron Hicks is in the best shape of his life and that he has all of the ability in front of him. And left field is his for the taking because best shape of his life has the ability, has 108 mile per hour cannon in left field. Possibly you could argue that you put him out there. It's the best outfield defense in Major League Baseball. And with him being in the best shape of his life, there's that, false hope that we will at some point get because, if he gets off to a hot start or whatnot, we're all be like, oh, see here, maybe. And that's the guy who we're going to hear that about.
That's a good pick. My other thought was Glaber because I feel like we've heard that from Glaber before is best shape of his life after Cashman criticized him for how he came into the season in 2020. I think he like the rest of us got fat during the pandemic.
Yeah. What about the guy that we've seen working out on Instagram because we know how Instagram is great for showing your fitness regimen, wearing Yankees gear, and a guy that we don't mention on the show as much, but maybe he is in the best shape of his life at the catcher position, still needs a job somewhere. Mr. Gary Sanchez, maybe I'll crack and trying to make his way back. It was a very strange video of him working out in Yankees gear. I'm not going to lie.
No,
I don't know why you do that.
Do you know why?
Because he's disconnected.
Because it's probably all the clothes that he has. He probably has just all Yankees clothes. And he's like, you know what? I got no other workout gear that's clean. I'll take the Yankees gear.
Bullshit. He's got some Twins gear. Why not rock that?
But because the Twins are the team that most recently slighted him. So he doesn't want to wear the Twins gear. And he only was there for a season. So he probably only has a couple of Twins gear. Those are dirty. Those are in the laundry.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a little odd. I'm wondering, is it a desperation move? Be like, look, see, I can do things. I'm familiar with your organization. I will be a backup.
Backup. He'd be
Garrett
backup
Cole's
to the
like
backup.
Garrett Cole is just like cringing watching him in Yankees gear, like praying to God that doesn't happen.
Did I tell the story on the show?
Actually,
about,
he had a
like,
much better season with Gary Sanchez, didn't he? So maybe we need him back in our life.
Did I tell the story on the show about the DM conversation I had with someone who played golf with a former Twins pitcher and,
No.
and said that I feel like I did. And said Gary Sanchez was the worst.
You might have.
catcher,
Maybe I
and
just wasn't listening.
all of the pitchers would actively lobby to not.
Oh yeah, you did mention this part. Yeah.
Not have Sanchez catch their games.
Which makes some sense here.
All right, the next one is the Just Don't Get Injured Please award. This one goes to Giancarlo Stanton.
100% goes to Giancarlo Stanton. Just stay healthy. If we're going on the other side to pitch, mine is also Severino. I need Severino healthy through spring training, starting off on the right foot and in a good spot. So he would be the
especially
other guy
with Cortes likely not starting the season, and obviously Frankie Montas not starting the season. So all of a sudden the rotation to start the season is looking a lot thinner. Yeah, you definitely need Severino, Cole, and Rodon to be 100% ready to go to start.
Yeah.
All right, this is an award that was born in 2017 or 2018? I don't quite remember. The Greg Bird Mr. March Award for the MVP of spring training, the guy who hits like 7 home runs. I think Higgy did it last year and then just absolutely sucks during the regular season.
Okay.
I'm going with Josh Donaldson because I think Josh Donaldson is going to be pissed and he's going to be ready to go. He's probably been taking dry and wet swings since the new year. Yeah. And as we know, you're going to see a lot of shitty pitching in spring training, guys working on their fastballs, especially with a lot of pitchers pitching in the WBC. There's even lower level minor league guys throwing fastballs to Josh Donaldson. He's going to eat them up. Josh Donaldson's going to hit like 7 home runs in spring training. Everyone's going to be like, oh, Josh Donaldson's back. And then he's going to have an 87 WRC plus this year.
Yeah. IKF. Because it's going to Max Payne. It's going to be IKF.
So IKF will win the shortstop job.
Yeah.
Because if he wins Greg Bird Award, that means he had a fantastic spring training and he will be the opening day shortstop.
And that people are going to be like, I don't know how to feel about this. He had a really good spring training.
He's going to hit like 417 in spring.
Yeah. I don't know how to feel about this. That's what people are going to say. So I think IKF could be that guy. I'm one of the few people that still believe he's a valuable player, but we will see.
The next one is the Razel Herrera player that has a great spring, and we never hear from that guy again. And the reason it's the Razel Herrera Award, because if you remember in the 2020 spring training before the pandemic, Herrera hit like 400 and everyone was like, oh, he's going to be the last man on the bench. He's going to make the roster. So happy for him, this guy. And then obviously the pandemic happened and we had to like dig deep to figure out who that player was when we were coming up with these awards because we all forgot about him. So I was doing some, I wanted to pick someone from the non-roster invitee awards list.
I'm scanning that list right now
because I thought maybe that's where this guy would come from. Yeah. Andres Chaparro. So I did not know who this guy was, but he's a Yankees. He played in rookie ball, A ball, and Double A last year. He had a 962 OPS combined in the minors last year. Dude can rake. I could see this guy having a big offensive spring training, and obviously he's not going to make the roster. He's going to start the season in Double A. So at least for this year, we're not going to hear from him again. But that's my pick.
Yeah, I think it's as good as any. There's a whole bunch of people on this list that you could call it out, but I remember looking at his numbers when we were going through the offseason GM plans and noticed his ability to swing the bat. So I think a guy like that kind of double down with what you mentioned. You're going to see an increased amount of minor league arms. This guy's going to get he's going to get a ton of minor league arms because he's going to get mop up duty in a lot of games as well. I could see him coming out and swinging the bat hot. So I think it's a good pick.
The just working on his timing award. This goes to a veteran that you don't want to overreact when they have like 3 hits during spring training and strike out a bunch. I'm going with Judge this year because I think obviously it was such an emotional season for him last year. And then an off season in which he got the big contract and maybe there'll just be a little bit of a letdown and he's just going to be working on his timing. Don't freak out when he hits 100 this spring. He's still the best player on the team.
Yep, that's a good one. He's, 100% the best player. It's not even close.
Best player on the planet.
I'm going to go with Rizzo. I think Rizzo also in a similar boat here. And he's going to be working on his timing because a little bit different for him. He likes to spray it around. I think that he's going to be trying to take advantage of that shift that, I've said on other shows that I hope he doesn't adjust his mechanics or, his approach, because I think his approach will automatically just benefit from the shift not happening. But I could see him also working on timing to make sure that he's hitting the ball the opposite way, getting that Mark Teixeira base hit over the second baseman.
And remember, the most important rule about spring's training stats are they only matter if they're good. They don't matter if they're bad.
Right. Clearly.
Right. The just building up his arm strength award, I'm giving to Clay Holmes. So even if he has a bad spring training, that's okay. He's just building his arm strength back.
It's Garrett Cole. It's Garrett Cole because yeah, he's working on arm strength. He's given up home runs in spring training. We're all like, what are you doing? You just gave up 3 home runs to guys we've never heard of.
No, it doesn't matter. It's spring training.
Spring training, just working on my arm strength and trying to, get through some mechanical flaws. That's it.
Well,
actually he's just giving up home runs because that's what he does.
So when you got like a couple outings of Holmes clocked at like 91 miles an hour and everyone's freaking out, it's okay. Yeah. It's just working.
That's the Dellin Betances Award. We should name it.
The most likely to get traded before opening day award, I'm giving to IKF.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's the right guy. He probably is if there's a second, it's Glaber. I think Glaber also is on trade watch a bit too, just because his name has been rumored a number of times. I think it's unlikely. And I think it's a pretty low percentage that he gets traded at this point. But, if there's 2 guys to be moved, it's, I think, one of them.
The Battle to Watch award, it's got to be shortstop, but neck and neck with left field.
I mean, not neck and neck, but left field, you throw Aaron Hicks out there and everybody's like, fine. But shortstop, there's a battle there. I mean, that with between 2 young guys and a wily vet, that's going to be interesting. Shortstop's going to be interesting. A big position. Pretty. You don't want a guy number important. 77.
Shortstop's pretty important. Yeah.
Pretty important.
And the last one is the back of the bullpen award. The guy that just gets the last spot on the roster out of spring and then probably spends 6 days with the team, gets sent down, and might never hear from him again. Matt Crook, left-handed pitcher, 27-year-old journeyman minor leaguer. He did average over 10 strikeouts per 9 innings so far in his minor league career. This is just screams a guy that they'll just throw on there because he is on the 40-man roster. They'll just throw on there he's also a lefty like we talked about. Throw some innings. He'll probably suck and they'll send him down. We'll never hear from him.
Or he'll be fantastic because they seem to find these guys that contribute at a high level. He could be a Lucas Licky, Matt Crook, like the name. The name is great.
Was Lucas Licky fantastic?
He was very good for his role. He was good. Yeah, absolutely. He was. You're discrediting what he did. He was
fantastic though. Fantastic.
Unbelievable.
What was the word Michael K used to describe Jameson Tyon's?
Yeah, it was
first.
It was outstanding. I don't remember.
Outstanding. It was outstanding. It was an outstanding 4 1/3.
You have to look at these guys in a vacuum with what again. My go-to on the show is expectations. I got 0 for a guy like Matt Crook. And Lucas Licky, you didn't have high expectations for this guy. He hadn't been in the major leagues in like 5 years or something when they had signed him. So it's a good story. And a guy like Matt Crook, love the name. Great name for a reliever.
It is a good name.
Yeah.
It's a good pitcher name. Good name. All right.
Average
so we'll
10 strikeouts
these.
per 9. I love that.
Yeah. We'll revisit these at the end of spring training and see what we got right and what we got wrong.
And real quick, just a quick little relevant segue here. 10 Ks per 9 innings in the minor leagues. Minor league baseball now going to be available with your MLB.TV subscription, which I appreciate. I think that's awesome because there were many times I just wanted to pop over and check out something and I couldn't because I didn't have and I didn't want to pay for it. And you could only listen to it on the radio. So, I don't know how many of these games are going to be on there. AAA affiliates, maybe mostly, I would assume. I don't know how many of these, minor league parks as you get lower have a broadcast that would be
I think all the AAA parks.
Yeah, AAA. I'm saying, but you start going down the line to the other affiliates, you're going to probably get fewer. But I think that's really cool because I will definitely spend a good amount of time watching.
It makes complete sense. The fact that they were charging extra for minor league MLB TV was insane. All right, so Ilya and Logan, I'm gonna set the over under at 1.5 times Scott actually watches a minor league game. Are you taking the over or the under this year?
I mean, make the smart choice here now that it's competition.
Are we talking about full games?
No, just turn it on.
Oh,
it'll happen once. It's not going to happen twice.
He's going to set a push notification so he can see what Volpe's up. Hold on.
That's right, because everyone did get the automatic renewal on their MLB subscription yesterday. So
did it automatically renew, or did they send me an email before they automatically renewed it?
I don't know. I haven't looked at my credit card statement. I have had an MLB TV subscription since 2007.
Yeah, whenever they started it is when I had it, and that was
my first year in college. I couldn't obviously watch the games, so I did it. And I remember, holy crap, the buffering on those games. It was so bad. I half the time it was just fuzzy, and then I was watching like it would be like one pitch, and I'd buffer for 45 seconds, another pitch. Which I guess was conveniently how long pitchers were taking in between pitches anyway, but it would take me like 5 hours to watch a game.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better. There's no doubt. It's actually very good now.
It's better now, but 2007 college Wi-Fi, not great.
Not great. No, it's very good now. I live on MLB TV during the season, so I'm happy about that. And I'm definitely going to be well over 2 because now that it's available, I would rather watch a AAA Yankees game or even go into AA to watch some guys than watch like other baseball in the National League. So I will definitely be watching.
If I know Volpe's gonna, if I'm gonna see Volpe or Dominguez,
I like watching the young guys. I like seeing them develop. That's a part of the game that I enjoy.
Going to minor league baseball games is really, really good. It's such a good value. The seats, you can get freaking seats right behind home plate or behind the dugout for like $12. It's good value to go to minor league baseball games.
Yeah, and now that you have it in Westchester and in Central Jersey, like there's a lot of the guys are around there within a train shot to go check out.
So the last thing we're going to do today is we're going to grade some of the NL teams that we didn't get to last week because we were way too long-winded, and we're definitely haven't been long-winded today. So Logan, let's start.
All right, let's do it. No long-winded here. So let's start in the NL East. First, let's do the Braves. So they added Jordan Luplow. Sean Murphy was their big trade. Joe Jimenez, Nick Anderson. But they lost a lot. They lost Dansby Swanson, Adam Duvall, Robbie Grossman, William Contreras, Manny Pena, Jake Odorizzi, Kenley Jansen, Darren O'Day, and Luke Jackson. So that bullpen seems to be a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, they seem to have lost more than they retained or added. So I guess I feel like we gave everyone a B or a B- last week, so I don't want to do that.
Just give everybody a B.
So do they have a shortstop that's coming up that is
C+? I don't
know. Yeah.
Okay, so they have Grissom? A guy to replace Dansby Swanson. That's a young guy.
Who's the guy?
Right? His name is Ron Grissom.
So this is where
he played a cup of coffee last year.
This is where grading, and we kind of got into this a little bit last time. Grading based on free agent acquisitions is not the full picture. So when you look at and the Braves have so many guys under contract because Andopoulos was really, really good securing their young talent for the most part, and getting them on longer term value contracts for the club. So like their nucleus is as strong as anyone's. So I think what they're doing here, Dansby Swanson, they knew they weren't going to re-sign, but they got better at the catcher spot, and they also made a trade with Jimenez in the bullpen. And if they have a guy that they believe is going to play shortstop, like they're good.
So let me ask you a question, because
I'll say again, it's a B, but.
If their shortstop prospect comes up and turns into a great player, just like how Pena turned into a great shortstop. They'll
sign him for 13 years at like $130 million.
So just like how Pena replaced Carlos Correa and the Astros didn't miss a beat, they got better, right?
Well, last year the Braves replaced a stud first baseman with a stud first baseman through free agency. So They did it
through a
differently
trade
last
actually.
year.
But yeah,
Yeah,
so
a
but
trade.
my question is, you're right. We don't know the full picture on these teams and the prospects that they're calling up to replace them. So that could change the grade. If we put this in the context of the Yankees have this year, right? We know they're going to have a shortstop battle. It might be IKF, it might be Peraza, it might be Volpe. So you're taking that into account when we're going to be grading their offseason, even though they didn't go out and sign a free agent shortstop, even though they could have.
Yeah.
So a grade is whatever we give the grade now. What if we fast forward 6 months and the Yankees shortstop is still a problem at the end of the season? Does that affect the grade on their offseason because they didn't address something? Or at the time, are you saying that was the right move and so that was their grade?
Yeah, you have to, because if you play Monday morning quarterback, I could look at any of the acquisitions. Carlos Rondon could be terrible. Does that mean it was the wrong move? No. You could say the same thing about free agent guys.
I think a grade does have to be adjusted, even though it's Monday morning quarterback, because the job of these evaluators and of the GM is to make the right move. And if you made a move and you were wrong, you should have a lower grade because of that.
This is a moot point. We're making an assessment before the season, identifying what we know now, and then of course you grade how things worked out, and you grade at that point. But there's a lot of unknown. And when you're looking at, that was the right move, and then the guy just didn't perform based on the way that everybody in the world thought he was going to perform, it's tough to say that that's a knock on the evaluator.
In the case of signing Carlos Rodon, I agree. If Carlos Rodon is a bust, I mean, I think we're going to be pissed, and we might criticize Cashman for that, because that's another pitcher that maybe he misevaluated the ability for him to pitch in New York.
But also like, he does everybody have some injury history. Also. Yeah.
I know, but then at the same time, you're like, well, this guy's been a stud pitcher. Like, it kind of seemed like a no-brainer. Whereas the shortstop situation, if shortstop is still a mess this year, I think that does deserve Monday morning quarterback criticism, because they could have solved it through free agency, and they chose not to.
Okay. I mean, what's your grade for the Braves?
C+.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to the Crosstown Mets. They finished second last year to the Braves, same record though, and they made a lot of moves. So some of the bigger ones, they brought in Justin Verlander, Jose Quintana, Kodai Senga from Japan, David Robertson. They also filled in some holes with Omar Narvaez and Tommy Pham. They brought back Edwin Diaz, Brandon Nimmo, and Adam Ottavino, so those have to be, taken into account. And then they lost basically 3/5 of their rotation in Jacob deGrom, Taijuan Walker, and Chris Bassett, and also some bullpen arms and Tyler Naquin.
You can go first on this.
They deserve an A, because they lost one of the best pitchers in baseball in deGrom. And then they acquired, or they signed one of the best pitcher, you could argue, in baseball, in Justin Verlander. So that's a very difficult thing to replace, and they did it. And
can I ask you a quick question? Would you rather have Jacob deGrom on the contract he signed, or Justin Verlander on the contract he signed?
Verlander.
Exactly.
That's why I give them an A.
No, I know. I'm saying, like, I'm not disagreeing. Because I've heard
they got the Cy Young
award.
They got the Cy Young Award winner in on the team that just won the World Series and replaced, one of the most dominant pitchers. Granted, he's had injury history. They replaced one of the most dominant pitchers when he's on the mound in Jacob deGrom. So they went out and paid for their guy. And when you look at the other moves that they made, I know they lost Chris Bassett, but they also signed Quintana. You could argue that's a close to a wash. Robertson, fills in nicely in the back end with any of the guys that they lost. Seth Lugo, I guess, but they got Tommy Pham, I think, is an upgrade in the outfield to Tyler Naquin. They got better.
I think they
got
also
more experience too.
They dodged a bullet with Correa. I think that signing falling through is actually going to be a good thing for the Mets.
I don't know if it's going to be a good thing on the field. I mean, it's hard to argue that Carlos Correa is not going to help you on the baseball field, especially in the short term. He certainly would have made that team better.
I'm starting to think there's something wrong with his impact on a clubhouse, and just like, he just seems like a bad guy, just like, I don't know. So something's off with him. And I think that was going to be a bad deal financially for the Mets, even though Steve Cohen doesn't care.
But not for the next couple of years. And that's when they're going for it now. The next 2 years, they have a massive window to go win the World Series. And Carlos,
long term, they dodged a bullet, I think. So I'm also giving them an A. I think they did a lot of fun moves. They could all blow up because they're the Mets, but looks good right now.
What I really like about what they did is a lot of my Mets friends have been saying this. There's no long-term commitments. They're all shorter-term. It's hard for that stuff to blow up. If you're going to blow up the payroll
besides
now,
the guys that they re-signed, which are team guys that they felt really good
right,
about.
to keep for a long time. But Verlander on 2 years, I mean,
that's such a
just
low
2 years.
risk.
It's a hired gun.
That's why I was saying go after Justin Verlander for 2 years. It's
Right.
low risk.
Yep. Let's move on to the Phillies. They went to the World Series and got better. They signed Trey Turner and Taijuan Walker to fill out the back end of their rotation. And then they added Gregory Soto, Matt Strahm, and Craig Kimbrell to the bullpen. They did lose Noah Syndergaard, David Robertson, Gene Segura, along with some other guys. But
I did see Noah Syndergaard at the Drake party also, in case you were wondering.
I was. So I think the pieces they lost, while I don't know,
it's an A.
Are any of those pieces like detrimental? Yeah, it's an A. Like Trey Turner makes them way better.
And
No,
Bryce
they didn't
Harper is
lose
going to be
anything.
out, right? Bryce Harper is out until what, mid-season
ish.
So you add a guy like Trey Turner. I mean, that's huge. Josh Harrison's I think a very good role player. You have Kimbrell, who isn't the same guy. Taijuan Walker, I think brings value. Gregory Soto, like they got better. There's no doubt.
Yep, A, I agree.
Okay. Let's move on
and
to
just real quick recapping of that NL East. Like it's going to be a dogfight because another team that we didn't mention here because it's hard to grade this, but I think the Marlins are just going to be a thorn in the side as they have been. They're going to continue to be that. I think their young guys are going to continue to develop, and we're probably going to see similar play with a little bit more experience than similar to what we'll see with the Orioles. Like they have a lot.
I was
going to
say, could the Marlins play the Orioles role from last year that they ended up being better? And then the Braves, Mets, and Phillies are all going to be competing for the
Nationals
division.
are just tanking. But
the Nationals suck, but that's still a lot of firepower in that division, just like the AL East.
Right.
Okay, let's move on to the NL Central. The Brewers, they finished in second place, and then they added Jesse Winker, William Contreras, Brian Anderson, Abraham Toro, Wade Miley, along with a couple of fringe major league pitchers. They did lose McCutchen, Omar Narvaez, Taylor Rogers.
They're a C, man.
Brewers.
Like I feel like they just stayed about the same. You could argue that Jesse Winker could be if he can regain his Cincinnati form, and maybe he does that in the NL Central. Maybe that's a spot for him. It's a little bit more comfort, and if he regains that form, like that's a plus, no doubt about it. But otherwise,
their offense stunk last year, right? They couldn't score runs, and they didn't do anything to improve their offense. Like they've got a good 1-2 punch in the rotation, but
Jesse Winker,
score.
you could argue is an improvement for sure, as long as. But he's got to have a much better year than he did last year. And then they solidified the catcher position with William Contreras. So, slightly better, C to C+.
Yeah, C. And they didn't trade Brandon Woodruff to the Yankees, so C-.
Yes. Quickly, the Pirates. They brought in McCutchen and
we're
Brian
doing
Reynolds.
Pirates. We're doing
Pirates because Brian Reynolds is standing at his locker as we speak, talking about wanting to be traded.
Yeah.
So I'll let you guys give them a grade,
he?
and then if they trade Brian Reynolds to the Yankees, you could change that grade at a later date.
So bringing back Andrew McCutchen reunion, love it. That's going to sell some tickets for a week. Have not traded.
Connor Joe's a good player.
Reynolds.
Carlos Santana is. Who knows? He-Man Choi battle at first base for the Pirates.
D+.
Those guys.
D+.
Now, if they trade Brian Reynolds to the Yankees, it goes up to an A, right?
It goes up to the Yankees offseason grade goes up significantly, and the Brewers offseason grade continues to be
The
a
Pirates.
D+ because they're the Pirates, not the Brewers.
Yeah. Well, that's
And they got rid of
Pirates.
Ben Gamble, which is just not great. What? Ben Gamble?
Bring back Ben Gamble.
Yeah, bring back Ben Gamble. Big team guy. Big team.
Put that on a T-shirt. Bring back Ben Gamble.
Trenton Thunder All-Star. Everybody loves him.
No,
wasn't he the minor league player of the year? The year before the year before he got moved. Pretty sure he was.
Think so. Okay, let's go to the Cardinals now. Start whipping through these. They finished in first and made exactly one important move. They brought in Wilson Contreras, which is a good move because they lost, first ballot Hall of Famer Yachty. They also brought back Adam Wainwright, but they didn't do much to that rotation otherwise.
This is tough. I mean, Wilson Contreras is better than Yachty at this point, but Yachty was the heart and soul of that team. But it's not like he retired, so you can't criticize them for that. So I guess I'll say A- because they did bring in a pretty good catcher.
Yeah, and if we're going back and looking at what they did on the pitching side, they also got a guy named Jordan Montgomery to be part of their rotation for the full year. So I'll include that. Give them a solid B. They're a team that does so well with their minor leagues as well. So I expect a few guys will be coming up that I've never heard of that will probably be contributors. And if they can get if Jack Flaherty can stay healthy in that rotation, that's a big deal. So I'll give him a B.
God, Wainwright's still going. He's
his
another
last
guy.
year.
Didn't he walk off with Molina? They did they held hands. And
they did, but he's actually going to be pitching against the team that Yachty is managing in the WBC, which will be fun.
Cool.
Let's do the Cubs quick because, like Ilya said, they had a sneaky offseason. They signed Cody Bellinger to a one-year deal. They brought in Dansby Swanson. It's a big move. Trey Mancini and Eric Hosmer. Tucker Barnhart, which we know. We like that guy. Jameson Taillon on a bigger deal. They lost Wilson Contreras along with a couple others. But
so this strikes me as an offseason similar to what Detroit had when they signed Javi Baez to a massive contract. It's like, are the Cubs ready to compete? Probably not, but they still went out and signed Dansby Swanson. I think the Cubs are better than the Tigers have been, even though they made that big signing. But I still am just a little confused at the direction of this club. So B, because there's a lot of good players here, but at the same time, I don't think they're going to be very good.
So they're interesting because I think that the division is interesting. I think the division is winnable. The Cardinals are the best team, but there's definitely a good amount of parity in this division. And I know, and you're not going to be playing the teams as many times, but with some moves and going the right way. I mean, they had 74 wins last year. They definitely got better. There's no doubt. And could they solidified their rotation with Taillon a little bit more and got their Mancini and Hosmer just, they have veteran at first base essentially at that point. And then we'll see. Cody Bellinger, I think, has a one-year deal. He definitely has a prove me deal right here. It's almost like a betting on myself 1-year deal to go out and get that because he did not have a good season. And that's a guy that could absolutely rebound and have a much better year. And if he does, and you have Dansby Swanson, who's, continues to be more of an offensive player, Ian Happ in left field, they have the pieces to compete in that division, but they also have the pieces to sell off at the trade deadline if it's not going well.
All right, let's quickly do probably the Dodgers and the Padres, right? Or are we doing whatever the NL West is?
Yeah, the NL West. So let's start with the Dodgers. They won 111 games last year, but they definitely got worse. Miguel Rojas on a trade they brought in, along with David Peralta and JD Martinez as outfield DH options. Noah Syndergaard, Alex Reyes, who's a flamethrower that they should get to do something really good. They lost Bellinger and Joey Gallo, so maybe a little bit of addition by subtraction. Trey Turner and Justin Turner, Trevor Bauer also they lost, along with some other guys. Andrew Heaney, who was really good for them. So,
is this the year that the Dodgers finally take a massive step back and only win 103 games?
Dude, they got young guys too. This is another example of one of those organizations that pay
they're
for
a machine.
players.
They just keep going.
Yeah, and they develop well. It's the off season. If we're looking at I don't know enough about their existing player in the minor leagues, but their off season is a C to a D. I think just based on free agencies and
lost
losses.
A lot.
They lost a lot. They lost Trey Turner. They lost a glue guy in Justin Turner. Who I know
they wouldn't have brought him back.
They wouldn't have brought him, but he's still a guy that. It's funny that they say they lost David Price. That's hilarious. They're still kicking the tires on Shelby. The fact that Shelby Miller is still getting paid by organizations is a true testament to that year that he had in Arizona, and just like the how much hope can go into certain contracts. Like that guy, good for him. But yeah, JD Martinez, Jason Hayward, really. And And then Peralta, they signed a bunch of veteran guys, and hopefully they can contribute around their young guys. And I know they have some young guys that are going to be good. So they'll still be good, but it wasn't a great offseason, I'd say.
I agree. It's a D plus. They're trying to fill gaps with a bunch of free agents that are just putting Band-Aids on. I mean, I guess some of them might work out, and they do seem to just continue to develop players, so it might be a moot point anyway, but I don't like the looks of this offseason.
JD Martinez as a DH is a solid move. You put him around, already.
There's no DH in the NL.
What?
But there is.
I know.
All right, let's do the last two. The Padres. They went to the NLCS last year, and they wanted one of the big guys. They made a last-ditch effort for Judge and Trey Turner. They got Xander Bogaerts on an 11-year deal. They also brought in Matt Carpenter and Nelson Cruz. That's a hell of a platoon of DH. Matt Carpenter.
Guy got a 2-year deal, ridiculous. $12 million for the massive month and a half he had for the Yankees.
Good for him.
I mean, that's got to get Scott excited. He loves Nelson Cruz and Matt Carpenter. I mean,
Nelly Cruz can still rake.
Yeah. Seth Lugo, they also brought in. They did lose some guys, Jason Profar, Brandon Drury, Josh Bell, Sean Manaea, Mike Clevenger.
And we're seeing the Padres Memorial Day weekend at the stadium. We will be announcing something soon for that event whenever Scott and I find the time to talk about it. This offseason, Bogaerts is obviously a great player. Is that a good contract though? 11 years, $280 million, like on a per year
low,
bail.
I think.
Yeah, it's low AAV.
Yeah, I would say that this is also.
I think they're also probably insuring for Machado potentially walking because
that's
they
exactly
could move,
what they do.
And what is Tatis? Is he coming back? Is he good to come back?
Yeah, he'll be back. I think he's got to miss like the first 20 or so games.
Okay,
they're moving him to the outfield.
Well, yeah,
which makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
it's a whole.
I mean, they solidified everything. It's
B plus. Did they do enough to overtake the Dodgers? Because that's the main question here. Because that's what they need.
I mean,
do.
I think they
beat the Dodgers last year.
Yeah, and I think they have.
But they beat the Dodgers in a short series. They how many games back did they finish of them for? A lot in the regular season. So
because that matters.
20 games back.
But
they got one of the best shortstops in the game.
God, they're
moving. They're moving Tatis into the outfield. Like you look at the bats on that team, they're better. And that DH combo is gross. It's an old DH combo, so we'll see how it plays out. But yeah,
it's gonna be good.
Last one, do the Giants quickly because they had a hilarious offseason.
Let's do the Giants. They got Arson Judge, Mitch Haniger, Michael Conforto to fix that outfield, Ross Stripling, Sean Manaea, Taylor Rogers to pair the Rogers brothers. They lost Carlos Rodon, Brandon Belt, Evan Longoria. They also brought back Jock Peterson. They have Carlos Correa to play shortstop as well.
And they lost him.
They lost him too, and they lost Arson Judge.
All in one offseason. I don't even know how to grade this.
Because it's a F. I don't know. You had two massive free
or it's an A because
targets.
you dodged the Correa contract that you're saying is going to be a big problem. So
I know, but I don't know. It's a bad offseason. I don't know how a Giants fan could feel good about it.
It's a terrible offseason. Just holistically, it's a terrible offseason for them. F. 100%. It's an F. But yeah, I mean, you signed Michael Conforto instead of Aaron Judge, so F. And you completely. You strung along your fan base in such a horrible way.
That's true. All right. That's going to wrap it up because I know you got to run. Next week, we can briefly touch on maybe some free agents the Yankees might look at to bring in at some point this spring who are still out there because there are still some names who are still unsigned. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will talk to you guys